We have reached the part of the podcast where we're talking some horse racing, and who better to come on than talk about the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga than Gino Buccola, host of the That's What G Said podcast. Gino, how you doing today, my man?
Oh, man, an exciting time where we have these big races at Saratoga. It's a different feel, a different vibe, but there was a lot of money in the pools. You and I are recording on Thursday evening. So Thursday was the first day of the 4 days they're running at Saratoga, and it was really good racing, like real quality. People were betting a ton, so I'm looking forward to it. And there's a good field for the Belmont this year. We have the Derby winner and the Preakness winner both coming back to run in the Belmont. And because it's run at Saratoga, instead of being the really long race normally where it's 1.5 miles, they're running it at 1.25 miles instead because of the configuration of the racetrack. So it actually made it, I think, a bigger field. A few more horses decided to run because they're not worried about that 1.5 miles being too far for them. So we have a pretty good field of 10, Eric. It's a good betting race.
And speaking of the field of 10, we're going to pull this up right here. This is from the DRF. In the one hole, we got Seize the Gray, got the lead in the Preakness, was, no one just finished the race, dude. Was never pressured. It was never pressured. Buyer figure improved by 12. I mean, is he live here? He's at an 8-1 price.
He's also going to be coming back for his third start in just 5 weeks. He didn't run in the Derby, but he ran on the same day the Derby was in a different race before the Kentucky Derby. Then in the Preakness, there was a horse named Imagination in there. He was supposed to be right on the lead, kind of maybe even the horse to catch, and he decided to sit off. And all credit to Seize the Gray and the connections there. They got aggressive, but I just don't think that's going to happen in this race, Eric. You have horses like the Wine Steward who wants to be forwardly placed. Dornick is very quick early on. And the same thing with Mindframe. He's drawn all the way to the outside too. I think he wants to be close up. A horse like Mystic Dan, I don't think he wants to be too far out of it. So I just think there's a lot of other speed in here. And I think Seize the Gray probably will be compromised in this race.
The 2-hole, we got Resilience 10-1, 6th at the Derby from the 18th post. He's improved with blinkers on. In the Risen Star, he raced the favorite of the race, Sierra Leone, really tough. Low buyer number though.
That
kind of really stood out to me.
So you're absolutely right. I think he's a little bit better than his speed figures would suggest. When you look back in the Risen Star, he also ran a 90 buyer that day. He was behind Sierra Leone. He was behind Track Phantom and Catching Freedom. So those 3 horses are nice horses. Then they've all come back and run very well. He won the Wood Memorial, and then his move in the Derby, he moved all the way up, made that big wide move, and he was second. I mean, he was right there contending at the top of the lane, got a little tired, and he faded. The trainer was talking about how he wasn't sure if he was going to run him in this race, and he definitely would not have run if it was at 1.5 miles. And then his last workout, he was doing so well, they said, I have to try him one more time at 1.25 miles because there are a lot of other big races at 1.25 miles this year, and I think he can get this distance. I want to make sure I know for sure that he can't before I have to kind of cut him back and run shorter. So I think with an inside draw versus the outside draw like he had in the Derby, he's going to run really well in here. I'm not 100% positive he's good enough to win. If he's good enough to be better than Mystic Dan, Mindframe, Sierra Leone, all simultaneously. But I have 2 horses in here, Eric, that I think are kind of the 2 horses to beat. And then I have 2 horses that are the price horses that I'm going to use. And I'll probably use all 4 of them. And Resilience is one of my 2 price horses that is going to be in the mix.
The 3-hole, we got Mystic Dan. Obviously, couldn't get the lead in the Preakness, was never in a real position to win. This 5-1 price is really sticking out to me, but I've rewatched the Derby twice. Everything went right for him. You know what I mean? Like every single thing went right. I don't know if he's as good as I think he is with Mystic Dan.
So I was most impressed with him in the Preakness, honestly, because kind of what you're pointing out, things didn't go his way that day. And he still ran well. He still ran second. He just lost to a horse who didn't get pushed on the front end and Seize the Gray. And if the complexion of the race changes here, if there's just a little more pressure up front, he to me seems like the most versatile. He's a good horse out of the gate, and then that gives them options with Brian Hernandez Jr. So I've just been more and more impressed with him the more I've seen him. And it wasn't a horse a few weeks ago who I was necessarily in love with, and now I think he's just been really, really honest. And of the horses to beat, he's in the mix for me too. He's going to be one of my 4 horses that I'm mentioning, and one of the 2 that I think are super logical. If he's 4-1 or above, and that's a very fair price to play on Mystic Dan to win on the Derby winner, Preakness runner up. I'm kind of curious with him in mind frame. I wouldn't be shocked if they flipped prices a little bit. But those would be the 2 who I could maybe see Mystic Dan coming down a tad and maybe mind frame coming up a tad.
Now in the 4-hole, we got Wine Stewart currently 15-1. All wins, sprint. Does the distance hurt, or does the extra furlong help? Favorite in 5 of his 6 races.
Yeah, you're gonna get the best price you've ever got on him in here, no doubt about it. He's super honest. I could see using him in like your 3rd and 4th spots, but he was supposed to win the Peter Pan. That was the race he was supposed to win. He was sitting a really nice trip. He moved to the lead early, and Antiquarian just ran him down that day. It was just a little bit better, honestly. And now they're going to have to go a little bit farther than they did in that race. So for me, I think the Wine Stewart is more of a real underneath type.
In the 5, we have the winner of the before mentioned Peter Pan with Aquanarium. I think I pronounced that totally wrong.
Antiquarian. Yeah. So the Wine Stewart and Antiquarian, and then also the number 7, who we're going to talk about, Protective, they finished 1st, 2nd, and 3rd in the Peter Pan. And to be honest, Eric, it wasn't that strong of a race.
It was at Aqueduct.
It
wasn't at Belmont. It was at Aqueduct.
So it really wasn't a strong race. It didn't come back with high speed figures there. Of all 3 of them, I would prefer Antiquarian. Honestly, when you watch him run, he's kind of a grindy horse. He's not a horse that has like a really fast turn of foot. So I actually think he might have been better if the race was at 1.5 miles. I probably would like him a little bit more if it was going longer.
Number 6,
Dornick. I haven't been able. Dornick is like the kid, Eric, that you coach. That's like maybe a little bit. It grows a little bit faster than everybody else, right? He's a little bigger. He's hit his growth spurt early, and he's kind of precocious. But then by the time everybody catches up to him, like he just doesn't step forward. He doesn't have that same dominance once everybody starts to learn what they're doing. And that's kind of how Dornick is. He's a speed horse, and he was really good at 2 and last year, and he just hasn't taken the next step. He has not progressed and really matured at all. So to me, I can only see him being a horse that's maybe involved early in the lead and battling it out, but he won't be on any of my tickets.
Yeah, I question if he has the speed to win. And we haven't really seen the improvement from start to start.
Yep.
In the number 7, still a maiden. That really stood out for me.
So this is a horse who's owned by Mike Rapoli, who was the owner of Fierceness, who is also the owner of the number 11 Mindframe, and they're a very big New York-based circuit. New York guys love the New York tracks. So for them, these races, the big races in New York, are almost as big as the Derby. So they want to run all of their horses that may have a chance in these races. So while you look at a horse like Protective, he does look a little bit overmatched on paper. He'll have to get faster. That's kind of why, because they put him in a race like this. If he hits the board in the Belmont, that's an incredible feather in their cap for breeding moving forward. So I just don't know if he's quite good enough to be in the mix here.
I mean, breaking your maiden at the Belmont Stakes is pretty impressive. Even if it's at a different track, that is insanely impressive. Now, Gaffleon is going to be on this. He got the boot from the favorite, Sierra Leone. Mentally wise, how is a jockey looking at this? Like, you were on the favorite in the Derby, the favorite who now you're going to the Belmont. you're getting the boot, like mentally wise, like how is that going to affect the jockey, or is that just whatever?
No, dude, we're human. We're all human. And that's one of the things too. What's really hard about it is that like Tyler Gaffalione is still going to ride a bunch of horses for Chad Brown, so he can't be bitter at Chad for taking him off that horse, because it could cost him a bunch of future business if he wants to play that way. That's what's so difficult, is that it's so much more than just these horses. It's like Chad Brown probably has 10 or 15 horses that Gaffalione can be riding all the time if he just wants to act professional about it, right? And just say, hey, you know what? For whatever reason, like this horse, you haven't fit him as well. We're going to just give someone a chance. Because if you look at Sierra Leone, his 2 races that he lost by a nose. I mean, he could be 5 for 5 very easily if things just slightly were a little bit different. So what I will say is, in that same sense, I think you're going to get him to be very hungry, right? And maybe he get like a really good ride in him to get aggressive, and maybe he's able to get this horse to run better than this horse should be able to run in this spot.
At the 8, we got Anna Marie, obviously jockey upgrade. I just can't get over the ride at the Derby. Like, I watched the Derby a couple times. I just can't get over what I saw.
He had one of the worst trips, probably the worst trip of any of the horses this year. And when you think about like really bad trips that come out in the Derby, that was kind of what you're thinking about. He had about everything that can go wrong for a horse to go wrong. It did. He got pinballed back and forth like 3 different times. He was 19th of 20 going into the turn. And then when he was on the inside, he got shuffled back. He was dead last. And then all of a sudden he moves from 20th all the way up to within like 4 lengths. He passes half the field quickly, instantly. And then he gets a little bit tired. Still finishes 8th, which sounds 8th, but in a field of 20, it's not bad. He's going to get a rider switch in here also. And I'm expecting a much better effort from him. I think you can just eliminate the Kentucky Derby. He's one of those 2 long shots that I was mentioning. It's going to be him and Resilience as the 2 price horses for me that I'll use, along with a couple of the others that are super logical. But Honor Marie, I think, is going to run really well here.
9, we got the favorite, Sierra Leone. Pace, I think it sets up pretty good for the style that he's going to look to run. In my eyes, this is a significant jockey upgrade. Gaffalione to Pratt. But this price, it's completely unplayable in my eyes.
Especially with his running style, right? Because he's very consistent. We feel good about him hitting the board here. We kind of know he's going to show up with a good late run, but he is a horse who's been a little quirky. Down the stretch, he kind of leans in. They've had to change equipment with him. They have a new rider aboard. They're giving specific instructions. So all of that means, maybe those things will help, and maybe they'll get him figured out, and maybe he'll win. But we're going to have to take a very short price to win on a horse that we know has some issues, right? Some like small idiosyncrasies to where they've got to figure some things out. Those aren't the types of horses that I want to take at 9 to 5. Do you leave him out of your try? No. But are you betting him to win at 9 to 5? No.
Yeah. I agree. Like you have to include him in your pick 4, pick 5s, but I don't think you can bet him straight to win here. The 10, we got Mindframe, 2 career starts, both wins by 20 combined lengths, highest value figure in the race, but this is an insane step up in class.
Yeah, he's the horse who's really the biggest like enigma in the race. He reminds me of how I felt about Forever Young, the Japanese horse in the Kentucky Derby that ran 3rd and ran really well. Like, I could never bet Mindframe to win at 7 to 2. But if I'm playing a pick 4 or pick 5, he's a tough horse to completely leave out, because I could see him winning this race and just being a monster or running dead last. He's sort of the opposite of Sierra Leone in that I kind of consistently feel like Sierra Leone will be in the mix. I have no idea how good Mindframe is, because the horses that he's beat so far, I would say the 9 toughest horses that he's ever faced in his life are all in this race. Like this is by far the toughest group. So every single horse in here is better than any horse he's ever faced. And he's got to do it all at the same time, all from way out wide.
But so my thing to that is time-wise, he's insane though.
And that's the point. That's why I can't bet him to win, because for me, I would need him. Like my line, if I was going to bet mind frame, would have to be like 6-1 about that for a win bet. But if I'm playing a pick 4 or a pick 5, and there are earlier races where I like big prices, maybe in one of the earlier races, I have a horse that wins that's 15-1 or 8-1. Now, do I want to be in this race without mind frame? No, I can't. So that's sort of like my counter to myself. It's more too, and you do a really great job of this with all sports. It's how would I bet him? It's not that I'm against him winning. It's that I'm against him winning at the price of 7-2 on the win end, but I will use him in multis because the way that I play, I'm going to have a bunch of other big prices. And if I'm 3 for 3 in the pick 4 or 4 for 4 in the pick 5 coming into this race, I definitely want mind frame, because there's a possibility, like you said, his numbers are so big. He might just be freaky good. He might be a horse who it doesn't matter who he faces. He's just going to crush them. And it's a hard horse to leave out of your exotics. And that's what makes this race so fun and so cool. I mean, a horse like this, he's actually run faster than every single horse in this race. Nobody in here has a better buyer speed figure than he does.
Now, what is the bet that you are making for this race? How are you playing this race?
So I said, I'll play a lot of stuff leading into the race, pick 3s, pick 4s, pick 5s. The horses that I have to close out will be 4 of them. 2 Resilience, the 9 Sierra Leone, I think, is the horse to beat. The 8 Honor Marie is my price horse. And then so those are the horses who I'm the most interested in. And then below them, I would have Mystic Dan and Mindframe as my next 2. That would be how I would play, pick 4s, pick 5s. What I'm going to probably do is play some tries where I will use my 2 long shots on top, Resilience and Honor Marie on top. And then I'll play all the horses that I mentioned below them. So I'll go something like 2 and 8 with Resilience, Mystic Dan with 2, 8, with 2, 3, 8, 9, 10. Probably like a try like that with my 2 long shots on top, and then those other horses in the 2nd and 3rd spot. I think that's something like $30. If one of those 2 horses wins at 10 or 12-1, you're going to be hitting $1,000 trifecta, so at the very least, that's there. And then if you're the type of person who plays daily doubles, plays pick 3s, plays pick 4s, the ones that I would recommend to throw in that maybe everybody else isn't would be Resilience and Honor Marie. Either one of them winning would really, really help spice things up. And then, Eric, my favorite bet that we do. We maybe will do something where we go all over Resilience and Honor Marie in an exacta. So that way, if one of those 2 runs second, we know we hit it as well, right? So we had success with that previously with the big prices when we just sort of put them in the 2nd spot and then we play everybody on top of them. That might be another situation to do here.
Now, real quick before I let you go, I'm going to pull these up from our friends at Bookmaker. Caesargate Gray Resilience. Anything there?
Ooh, yeah. You know what? That's incredible that they have Seize the Gray, or that Resilience is actually -130. So that I wouldn't like the value on that, but that's kind of funny because what they're telling you is that they think Resilience is probably going to get bet a little bit on the more bet down from his odds. Mystic Dan Seize the Gray, not really, because I'd rather get better value there. Same thing with Resilience, Mystic Dan, not, I'd be okay with Resilience there at +105. It's not my favorite one, but I'm okay with it. Wine Steward and Aquarian, I would pass on that one. I would play the Wine Steward over Dornick for sure. I much prefer Wine Steward. I just think he's a better horse in better form. He can sit off the pace a little bit, and he could hit the board. I'm just not shocked. I'm not invested in Dornick really at all. Wine Steward, Honor Marie. I mean, I lean Honor Marie, but I wouldn't want to play at minus 190.
Huge price.
That's just too much to lay. I'd rather find better ways to play Honor Marie. Antiquarian, Dornick, nothing really there for me in that one. Minus 140 versus Antiquarian on Honor Marie. That's starting to get in the ballpark of playable. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I would maybe look at Mystic Dan Sierra Leone. Because what's nice about that matchup is that, Mystic Dan has just a faster running style early on, right? He's going to put himself in the race early. Like, you're going to start, and Mystic Dan's going to have a 4-length advantage in that spot over Sierra Leone right off the bat. Yep. In a head-to-head matchup, So that's a nice one for plus 150 there. Mystic Dan Mind Frame. Yeah, I wouldn't play that one. The Mind Frame Sierra Leone, that one's a little bit interesting too for the same reasoning, right? Mind Frame is going to be so much ahead of Sierra Leone early in the race where you're opening that bet with a major advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Honor Marie Sees the Gray. That's my favorite one we've seen so far.
Okay. All right.
I like Honor Marie over Sees the Gray in the head-to-head. Resilience, Honor Marie. Those are my two long shots. Okay. So, yeah, I'm not going to pit them against each other, one or the other. Honor Marie, Mystic Dan, I'd probably leave that one alone.
So favorite one, if you had to bet one of these, it would be
Honor Marie minus 108 against Sees the Gray minus 122. Mind Frame Sierra Leone, Mind Frame plus 135. That one would be also. And then Mystic Dan plus 150 against Sierra Leone. And then there was the one more with with Dornick and the Wine Steward. Those would probably be the 4 that I would look to, and I would play the Wine Steward over Dornick.
Gino, I'd like to thank you for coming on, talking some Belmont Stakes at Saratoga. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find you on social media and when your podcast where you give a race-by-race breakdown comes out?
Yeah, we went through races 4 through 12 for Saturday at Belmont. The 12th race is the Belmont. So all of those are graded stakes races. We had guests helping us out, previewing the early pick 4, and then all the races leading you into the pick 5. That's on YouTube. That's what G Said Podcast, or you could get the podcast anywhere you subscribe. We also had Friday analysis on there as well. So plenty of stuff. Erik, you join me each and every week to talk basketball or football or whatever current sports are happening. And we're talking a lot about the NBA Finals right now. And I got to give a big assist to my good friend, my son, Milo, right here, who stayed pretty quiet for about 20 minutes right now.
Job.
He did a really good job. Yeah.
Great job.
He did. So I got to give him some love. He did. Yep. He's going to get some a nice treat right now when we finish up.
Thanks for coming on, my friend. Good luck in your bets, and we'll talk soon.
Anytime, buddy.